In this Process Scheduler Quick Start video, we're going to download, install, and activate Process Scheduler. We're then going to check our Process Scheduler license, and then do the configuration we need to set up Process Scheduler. We're going to configure the Process Scheduler options, the Process Scheduler companies, and the email messages that we're going to use in our schedules. We're then going to create a day-end schedule, and the day-end schedule is also going to post the batches that result from the day-end. It's going to run across multiple companies. So per company, we're going to do a day-end and post batches. And once we've tested that schedule, we'll go ahead and configure the Windows Task Scheduler to run that schedule. To download Process Scheduler, you go to orchid.systems, log in, and then go to the product downloads. Select the version you want, and then download Process Scheduler. And once downloaded, you can run the install shield. And then connect to the company where you're going to activate Process Scheduler. This company must be the company where you're going to store all your schedules. Although you can run a schedule across multiple companies, you activate in one company only, and this is the company where the schedules are saved and the logs are saved. And having activated, you go to the Process Scheduler options, and you can check your license. You could enter your serial number here and activation code if you had installed for 30 days initially. The first setup you need to do is in Process Scheduler options. On the Processing tab, you fill in the credentials for the user to read the schedules. In our case, we're using admin and the admin's password. And then you store the company or select the company where the schedules are going to be stored. In our case now, Sample Company Limited. And I'm going to get a warning because I'm switching my active from my previous database that I was using. On the Email tab, you fill in your email server details, and this enables Process Scheduler to be able to send emails when it runs. Test your email settings. And save your options. In Process Scheduler companies, you need to specify a user ID and password for all those companies that you're going to write schedules for. So I'm going to have schedules for O11 and for Orc Ltd. And for the existing company, Sam Ltd. And the final setup I'm going to do are 2 email messages, one when the schedule is run, and one when there's been an error in the schedule. You can use these other variables depending on your schedule, and you can have tailored ones depending on your schedule. And to save time, I'm just going to copy and paste the email body from the schedule ran email. Using the Process Scheduler visual process flow for setting up Process Scheduler, we have activated Process Scheduler in Sam Ltd. We are using admin as the user for Process Scheduler and as the user for all the other target companies for our schedules. So our security has been set up. We set up Sam Ltd in the Process Scheduler setup on the Processing tab. We configured our email server on the Email tab, and we've created the email templates that we want to use. We've also entered the user ID and password to be used in the companies that we're going to create schedules for. So now we need to go ahead and create our schedules. The first schedule we're going to create is the one for day ends and for posting the batches. And we always want to send an email to alert us when the schedule has run. And the message ID we're going to do is the schedule ran. Our first step is going to work in company 011. And using the Detail tab, our first step is going to be to run an IC day end in 011 and to log any errors in this folder. If there's an error, we want to go to step 10 and we want to send an email saying that there has been an error. If it's successful, we want to go to step 5. We won't need to send an email, and step 5 will be posting the batches in 011. So all system batches are the batches that result from the day end. If there's an error in this, we want to go to step 15 and send an email that there has been an error. If there's not an error, we still want to go to step 15 and do the same for the next company. So step 10, run an IC day end. And we can use the same log file. If there's an error in this, we're going to go to step 20 and send the email that there's been an error. Otherwise, we're going to go to step 15, which will be to post. If this is an error, we're going to go to step 20 and send the schedule error email. If it's successful, we're still going to go to step 20, which is going to be to run for the third company. And we're going to run an IC day end for SAM Ltd. Use the same log path. If there's an error, we're going to stop and send an email. If it's successful, we're going to go to step 25, which is going to be posting the system batches in SAM Ltd. If there's an error, we're going to send an email. But there's no next step. Your schedule can have multiple paths depending on the success or the failure steps. And 0 terminates the schedule. You can test your schedule by clicking Run here, and this tests both your setup is correct in Options on the Processing tab, that the companies are defined in Process Scheduler companies, and will run through all the actions that you've set up. When running from the Schedule screen, the status or the log will be displayed on the screen once the processing has finished. And you can review the log here. And clicking on the audit log shows you all the actions that have been taken for this schedule. Ran the IC day end in 011, posted all system batches, IC day end in Orc Ltd, posted all system batches, and the IC day end in SAM Ltd, and posted all system batches. and then it sent the email. The status will give you whether it was successful or failure, and depending the type of action, if there are errors, you can drill into the log if that action creates a log. And the final thing is to set up the schedule in your Windows Task Scheduler. In your Windows Task Scheduler, create a task. Specify that you want to run this whether the user is logged in or not. And you will need to specify the network user to use to start the task. The action is going to be to start a program to run from your Sage programs directory. OZ is the 2-letter code for Process Scheduler. You select the Oz Integrity Check program and the parameter to pass in the schedule ID. The trigger is when you want to run, so we're going to run daily at 10 p.m. And this is the network user to use. And this network user needs the read-write access to the Sage shared data directory so it can run the programs. And we can run this now, or it will schedule at 10 p.m. every night. We have just seen how to download, install, and activate Process Scheduler, how to check the license. We've run through the configuration of Process Scheduler options, Process Scheduler companies, and the email messages needed. And then we created a day-end schedule to run across 3 companies that ran the day-end and posted the resulting day-end batches. And then we saw how to test the schedule and how to configure the Windows Task Scheduler to schedule this on a set schedule. We're now going to have a look at another schedule to open fiscal periods per module. The schedule is still going to run across multiple companies, and it's going to open multiple modules periods for AR and OE in all our 3 companies. We're going to create a new schedule. Called Open AR OE. Again, we're always going to send an email when it runs. And the message ID is going to be our schedule ran. Step number 1, company 011. And this time we're going to choose a level 3 action to open the next closed period. And looking at our detail, with this action, we can either say for all modules or we can include an individual module. So we're going to do accounts receivable, and depending whether it's successful or not, we're going to try and open OE. If it's not successful, we're going to give the normal error message that an error occurred. Step number 5. Open the next closed period for 011, and this one's for OE. Send an email if there's an error, and so on until we have the open next closed period for Orc Limited, for AR and order entry, and for SAM Limited for AR and order entry. And to test if it runs, You can see all the actions and look at the audit log. It's run for 011, Orc Limited, SAM Ltd. And all the steps were successful. And now you would schedule this schedule using the Windows Task Scheduler, maybe on the 25th or the 28th of every month to open for the future months. We have just seen our open OEAR schedule, how it can run across multiple companies and open the next fiscal period for multiple modules. And the next schedule we're going to have a look at is to run data integrity checks across multiple companies, and after running the integrity check we're going to run another action to clear the old logs, because data integrity checks which are over 90 days old are probably no longer relevant. So the first step per company is going to run the data integrity check for all the modules, and the second step per company is going to clear the data integrity logs which are over 90 days old. This new schedule we're going to call Data Integrity Check and Clear. We're always going to send an email. Step number 1, in our company 011, we're going to check all modules integrity. Select to fix errors. Create our log path and choose the option to send the full log of all the integrity errors. Whether there's errors or not, we're going to go to the next step to clear. After adding our 3 companies, the check modules integrity and then the clear the integrity logs after 90 days, when those logs are over the 90 days old, we can add the schedule and give it a test run. Check integrity and clear data integrity logs are level 1 process scheduler actions. And there's 2 different actions, one to check an individual module's integrity and one to check all the currently active modules within the company, which is what we're doing here. Normally the schedule would be scheduled overnight, so I'm just going to speed up the process as it is doing a data integrity check across all modules in these 3 companies. When being run from the process scheduler screen, the log is displayed, or if it's too large you can open up the log and you can see the full history of that's being run. But it's also being audited and is in the detail log. So we can see the actions that ran per company, and we can drill into the last process scheduler error log, in this case for tax services. But all the integrity logs would have been saved in the appropriate directories. And were there any logs older than 90 days old, they would have been cleared from the directory. With data integrity checks, you can opt to only send emails if there's errors, and then on the individual tasks, you can say send an email, but only if there's a change in the number of errors. So if there's always one error in tax services, you won't get an email the second time the integrity check is run. And if it doesn't change from that one error, then you won't receive any emails again. We have seen how you can set up a data integrity check schedule, which will check all the modules integrity within a company and then clear down the logs of the old integrity checks afterwards. And we've tested that schedule too.